Imagine, if you will, a fortress, not one of stone and mortar, but one of light and reflection. Inside lives a monarch, enthroned in a grand hall. But the walls of this hall are not adorned with tapestries or paintings of heroic deeds. They are lined, from floor to ceiling, with perfectly polished mirrors. Everywhere the monarch looks, they see only themselves, magnified, idealized, flawless. The mirrors reflect a perfect ruler, a brilliant mind, a captivating presence. This is their kingdom, their reality. The air is still, predictable, and entirely dedicated to this singular, shimmering reflection. This is the inner world of the narcissist, a fortress of mirrors designed for one purpose: to validate the existence of a self that is, in reality, terrifyingly fragile. But what happens when someone walks into this hall of mirrors who does not reflect? What happens when a presence enters that doesn't play the game, that doesn't offer a polished surface for the monarch's image to bounce off of? This presence isn't a weapon of aggression. It isn't a clever argument or a cutting remark. It is something far more destabilizing. It is a quality of being, a quiet, unshakable depth that the narcissist's light cannot penetrate, and whose surface it cannot in the face of this presence. The mirrors begin to warp. For the first time, they show tiny cracks, revealing the cold, empty stone behind the glass. The monarch sees a flicker not of their own grandeur, but of the terrifying void they have spent a lifetime trying to conceal. This presence is the narcissist's greatest fear. It is a mortal threat to their entire constructed reality. And the source of this profound power, this mirror-shattering quality, is a trait described in detail by the psychologist Carl Jung. What is this trait? Why is it so uniquely terrifying to them? And most importantly, it is a trait whose seed exists within you, right now, waiting to be cultivated. The trait that dismantles the narcissist's fortress is not an action, a skill, or a personality type. It's a process. It is the most fundamental, natural, and courageous psychological journey a human being can undertake. Carl Jung called it individuation. Now, let's be very clear. Individuation is not about becoming individualistic in the modern sense of being quirky or rebellious. It's not about being selfish or isolated. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Jung described individuation as the process of becoming your authentic, whole self. It's the journey of the acorn becoming the mighty oak tree it was always destined to be. It is the fulfillment of your unique psychological blueprint. To understand why this journey is so terrifying to a narcissist, we must first understand its core components. And to do that, we have to look at the different layers of our own psyche. First, there is the persona. The word persona is Latin for mask, and that's exactly what it is. It's the social mask we all wear to navigate the world. You have a professional persona for work, a different one for your family, another for your friends. These masks are not inherently bad. They are necessary tools for social interaction. They allow us to function in a complex society. The danger, however, comes when we mistake the mask for our actual face. When we believe that the role we are playing is all that we are. The narcissist has done more than mistake the mask for their face. They have surgically fused a grandiose, perfect mask to their being, and forgotten they even have a face underneath. Beneath the persona lies the potential for what Jung called the true self. This isn't a perfect, enlightened being, but rather the authentic, integrated core of who you truly are. It is the totality of your consciousness and unconsciousness, the light and the dark, the known and the unknown. The entire goal of individuation is to shed the layers of conditioning and false identity so that this true self can emerge and guide your life from a place of wholeness and wisdom. But there is a critical step between taking off the mask and finding the true self. It is the most challenging and most crucial part of the journey. It is the willingness to confront your own shadow. The shadow, in Jungian terms, is everything about ourselves that we have repressed, denied, and refused to acknowledge. It's the parts of us we deem unacceptable, weak, shameful, or evil. It's our hidden insecurities, our secret resentments, our unexpressed rage, our latent selfishness. We all have a shadow. It is an inescapable part of being human. A healthy, developing person understands that this shadow exists. They have the courage to turn around, look it in the eye, and begin the difficult work of understanding and integrating it. The narcissist, on the other hand, spends their entire existence running from their shadow. Their grandiose persona, their fortress of mirrors, is built specifically to deny that the shadow even exists. The emptiness and shame they feel within are so profound that they cannot bear to face them. So they do something else instead. They project it. They cast their own shadow onto everyone around them. This brings us to the power of integration. When you do the work of acknowledging your shadow, when you can admit, yes, I have the capacity for jealousy. Yes, I can be selfish sometimes. Yes, I have fears and flaws. Something remarkable happens. The shadow loses its power over you. It doesn't mean you act on these impulses. It means you're no longer controlled by them unconsciously. You're no longer hiding from parts of yourself. This process creates profound self-awareness, deep self-acceptance, and an unshakable psychological resilience. You become whole. And it is this wholeness, this integrated strength, that the fragmented, hollow narcissist cannot withstand. The person on the path of individuation becomes a walking, breathing existential crisis for the narcissist. Their very presence destabilizes the narcissist's fragile world for 5 specific, interconnected reasons. Reason 1. The broken mirror, authenticity versus the false self. The narcissist survives on something called narcissistic supply. This supply is admiration, attention, fear, even hatred, any emotional reaction that confirms their existence and validates their false self. They need other people to act as perfect mirrors, reflecting back the grandiose image they project. They will surround themselves with people who flatter them, agree with them, and cater to their ego. The individuating person is a broken mirror. Your authenticity, born from self-awareness, means you do not automatically reflect what the narcissist wants to see. You don't offer blind agreement. You don't engage in flattery you don't mean. Your presence is grounded in your own reality, not theirs. When the narcissist boasts, you may respond with quiet observation instead of awe. When they demand agreement, you may offer a different perspective. You're not doing this to be confrontational. You're simply being yourself. But to the narcissist, this is a profound betrayal. Your wholeness acts as a crack in their flawless mirror, and through that crack, they see the emptiness they are so desperate to avoid. You are not reflecting their manufactured grandeur. You are reflecting a reality that includes nuance, complexity, and truth, all things that threaten their black and white, self-serving fantasy. Your simple, grounded presence wordlessly communicates. Your performance is not reality, and that is an unforgivable offense. Reason 2. Immunity to projection, the integrated shadow. Projection is the narcissist's primary weapon of psychological warfare. Because they cannot face their own shadow, their own insecurity, shame, and malice, they bundle it up and hurl it at you. They will call you selfish when they are the one exploiting you. They will accuse you of being manipulative when they are the one pulling the strings. They will call you unstable and crazy when you react to their constant provocations. They need you to accept this projection, to believe you are the flawed one, so they can remain pure and blameless in their own minds. This is how they regulate their fragile ego. But this weapon is utterly useless against someone who has done their shadow work. When a narcissist accuses you of being selfish, you don't crumble in shame. Instead, you can calmly self-reflect and say, I know I have selfish parts, I've worked on them. But in this situation, my actions are not selfish, they are self-preserving. What you're describing sounds more like your own motivation. When they call you manipulative, you don't descend into a spiral of self-doubt. You know your own intentions. You can see their accusation for what it is, a confession. They are handing you a detailed map of their own inner world and labeling it with your name. Because you have had the courage to face your own darkness, you can recognize it in others. You are immune to their psychological poison because you carry the antidote of self-awareness. Their most powerful weapon glances off you, leaving them standing there, holding their own unwanted shadow, exposed and disarmed. There is nothing more terrifying to them than being forced to see themselves. Reason 3. The source is internal, self-validation versus narcissistic supply. Think of self-worth as a power source. The narcissist is like a device with a faulty battery that must be constantly plugged into an external outlet. That outlet is you, your attention, your validation, your emotional reactions. Their entire sense of self is externally located. This is why they must control you to secure their power supply. The individuating person, however, is like a solar-powered entity. Your journey inward connects you to your own inexhaustible source of energy, self-validation, and self-acceptance. Your sense of worth comes from within. You do not need the narcissist's approval to feel good about yourself. And, crucially, you do not fear their disapproval. This makes you a terrible source of narcissistic supply. The narcissist's control tactics like intermittent reinforcement, the cycle of love bombing and devaluing, rely on you being desperate for their approval. They give you a taste of validation, then snatch it away, making you work harder and harder to get it back. But you're not playing that game. Their praise feels hollow because you don't need it, and their criticism loses its sting because you no longer grant them the authority to define your worth. You can't be bought with their charm, and you can't be controlled by their rage. Your emotional thermostat is set internally. This independence is maddening to the narcissist. It's like they're flipping a switch on and off, and you, the light bulb, simply refuse to flicker. You have your own power source. Reason 4. Unshakable boundaries. The sovereign individual. Individuation is the process of differentiating yourself from the collective, from your parents, and from the expectations of others. It is the journey of becoming a psychologically sovereign individual. This inner sovereignty manifests externally as rock-solid, non-negotiable boundaries. The narcissist, by definition, has porous to non-existent boundaries. They suffer from a profound lack of differentiation. They cannot see where they end and others begin. They view people not as separate individuals with their own needs and rights, but as extensions of themselves, objects to be used for their gratification. Therefore, when you set a boundary, the narcissist does not perceive it as a healthy act of self-respect. They perceive it as a personal attack, a deep and violent rejection. When you say no, they don't hear a simple refusal. They hear, "You do not have the right to control me. I am a separate entity from you." To them, this is a declaration of war. Your healthy boundaries are like an unbreachable wall to them. They will push, rage, manipulate, and guilt trip to try and tear it down, but the boundary holds firm because it is not built from anger or fear. It is built from the concrete of self-knowledge and self-worth. Your ability to say no and mean it, without guilt and without excessive explanation, demonstrates a level of self-possession that the narcissist can never achieve. It highlights their powerlessness, which is their deepest shame. Reason 5. A glimpse into the abyss, fear of the unconscious. Perhaps the most profound reason the narcissist fears you is the most subtle. The person on the path of individuation becomes comfortable with the depths of the human psyche. You understand that life is messy, that people are complex, that darkness and light coexist within everyone. You are not afraid to venture into the basement of your own mind, to explore the unconscious, to learn from your dreams and your mistakes. The narcissist is utterly terrified of this inner world. For them, the unconscious is not a source of wisdom. It is an abyss of shame, emptiness, and the fragmented pieces of the true self they abandoned in early childhood. Their entire life is a frantic effort to live on the brightly lit surface, to never, ever look down into the depths of their own being. They have bricked up the door to their own basement. Your comfort with your own inner complexity, your quiet contemplation, your willingness to discuss deeper truths, all of it serves as a horrifying reminder of the abyss they are running from. You are a living embodiment of the inward journey they refuse to take. Your psychological depth highlights their profound, defended superficiality. When they look at you, they don't just see a person they can't control. They see a reflection of the path not taken, the path to wholeness that they have deemed too terrifying to even consider. You are a ghost from a future they will never have. Now we shift the focus, because the title of this exploration isn't just about the narcissist's fear. It's about you. It ends with the words, "You have it." This process of individuation is not a gift reserved for a select few mystics or psychological gurus. According to Jung, it is the natural, archetypal journey of every single human soul. The seed of that mighty oak tree is already planted within you. The pressures of society, the wounds of our past, and the distractions of modern life can cause us to forget it's there, but it never goes away to S.O. How do you water that seed? How do you begin or continue this courageous journey inward? It's not about becoming perfect. Let's release that idea right now. In fact, Jung himself said, "I would rather be whole than good." The journey is about embracing all parts of yourself to become whole. This is your ultimate defense and your greatest adventure. Here are a few practical signposts you can use to navigate this path, inspired by the very work we've been discussing. First, practice radical self-honesty. This is the bedrock of all inner work. It is the commitment to observing your own thoughts, feelings, and motivations without immediate judgment. The best tool for this is journaling. Not just writing about what you did today, but asking yourself deeper questions. Why did I really react that way? What fear was driving that decision? What part of me am I refusing to look at right now? Be a curious, compassionate scientist of your own soul. This is the first step in identifying your own shadow. Second, pay attention to your dreams. For Jung, dreams were not just random neural firings. They were direct messages from the unconscious. They are the language of your true self. Start a dream journal. When you wake up, write down whatever you can remember, no matter how strange. Don't worry about interpreting them perfectly at first. The simple act of honoring your dreams by writing them down signals to your unconscious that you are listening. You are opening a line of communication with the deepest parts of yourself. Third, embrace creative solitude. This is fundamentally different from loneliness. Loneliness is the pain of being alone. Solitude is the joy of being with yourself. In our hyperconnected world, we are rarely ever truly alone with our own thoughts. Make time to consciously disconnect. Go for a walk in nature without your phone. Sit with a cup of tea and just listen to the silence. Meditate, draw, play an instrument. This solitude is where your inner voice, drowned out by the noise of the collective, can finally be heard. And fourth, question your persona. Throughout your week, consciously ask yourself, what role am I playing right now? Is this authentic, or is this a mask I'm wearing? Am I saying yes because I truly want to, or because it's what the good employee or caring friend persona is supposed to do? This isn't about dismantling your persona entirely. We need it, but about creating a conscious space between who you are and the role you are playing. This space is where your true self begins to breathe. This inner work, this path of individuation, is not just an act of self-improvement. It is the most powerful and permanent form of protection against narcissistic abuse. You stop trying to build higher walls to keep them out. Instead, you cultivate an inner landscape, a rich and whole inner world that they simply cannot enter. Their games have no purchase there. Their manipulations find no fertile ground. You become a sovereign realm, and they are left standing at the border, unable to comprehend the source of your quiet, unshakable strength. Let's return to the fortress of mirrors. The narcissist doesn't fear your anger. Anger, in fact, is a form of narcissistic supply. It proves they have an effect on you. They do not fear your arguments. They are masters of twisting words. They do not fear your revenge. They expect it, as it validates their belief that the world is a hostile place. What the narcissist truly fears is your wholeness. They fear the quiet, centered, and self-contained power of an individual who knows who they are, shadow and all. They fear the person whose happiness is not contingent on their approval. and whose stability cannot be shattered by their chaos. They fear you, not because of what you might do to them, but because of what your very being reveals about them. Their emptiness, their fragmentation, their profound and tragic refusal to embark on the one journey that truly matters. The path of individuation is the ultimate act of reclaiming your sovereignty. It is the slow, deliberate, and beautiful process of turning away from the distracting noise of the world and turning toward the inner source of your own truth. It transforms you from a secondary character in someone else's toxic drama into the sole author of your own life story. The journey is long, it is challenging, but leads to the one thing the narcissist can never possess and will always fear: the unshakable, quiet power of a whole and authentic self.